Hello and welcome to Talk Spooky to Me, the Ghost Story Guys mail show. I'm Brennan Storr.
I'm Paul Bestall.
And this is our opportunity to hear from you, our audience. Paul, my friend, you have taken a break from looking at your own butthole with a mirror to join us here. How are you? I swear that makes sense, folks. We will explain. And if this is your first show, this is not usually how we intro these things. How you doing?
I'm all right, mate. I'm all right. I'm just waiting for the Halloween to come and visit me now, and that. No, it's been good. I've had a week of contrasts. I was lucky enough to be invited to go see Rachel Fairburn on Friday at the Lead Mill here in Sheffield.
Oh yeah,
and I laughed my arse off for 2.5 hours because we had a great compare and two wonderful other comedians on, which were both extremely funny. And then Rachel was the headliner. And we were lucky enough, well, I don't know if she was, but I was lucky we had a little chat after the show. She came and found me, which made me a little bit surprised that she knew what I looked like. But she listens to Mysteries and Monsters. So, I mean, it was just really nice. And we had a very nice chat and got on very well, I think. And she had to dash off because she was performing in Bath the following day. And a bit like myself, she's not a one pint, that's fine kind of person. So we took a rain check on a spooky conversation. So that was a great start to the weekend. And then, so I've kept myself busy learning all about the Raelians.
Yes, and you contacted them. You'll be joining soon. I will join you over in Quebec. We can all go look at our buttholes with mirrors in a field, which is a thing the Raelians do, to be clear. Yeah. To be clear, this is why I brought this up. Paul was telling me about this before we went on air. I'm not just developing a new fixation in real time.
Yes, I learned a lot about the Raelians. So, that's one of the things that they like to do sometimes.
To each their own, I guess. Just don't tell me about it. Generally, folks, if you're writing in, you're like, hey, I am a butthole watcher. And we number in our thousands. Great. Don't tell me. I don't want to know. You do you. We love you, but keep it to yourself.
Yes. So it was a very interesting documentary. I'm not sure what it's called overseas, but here in the UK, it's called Rael, The Last Prophet. And it basically gives you an overview of 50 years of Rael and his messages from beyond.
All right. Well, Paul, I've entered into a very real, very intense moment in my campaign of psychological warfare against Danny Robbins. I am reading his book, Into the Uncanny, so it's better to understand him and thus destroy him from the ins. I'm kidding. I have nothing against Danny Robbins. I just really like picking at the guy. I have brought his book, though. I'm really enjoying it.
As we say, it's very Bruce Lee, that, to beat your enemy, you must know him.
That's right. To stop a Robbins, you must first think like a Robbins.
Or as Rael would say, you must be everything. You must be nothing. This is the way.
And that way leads us to some listener mail.
Our courteous and efficient staff is on call 24 hours a day to serve all your supernatural elimination needs.
We're ready to believe you.
All right, so first up, we have a very important message from our patron, Floey Two Hats.
Floey says, hello, lovely Brennan Paul. Sorry to come begging. I was wondering if I could get a shout out and a request for some psychic support for my awesome pal, Sophie W., a huge GSG fan for ages who is fighting for her life in the critical care unit in Birmingham since the 18th of December. We've been her proxy bedside family, as have you dudes, trying to bring her back into the world from wherever she is lost to currently. She's on several life support circuits and in an induced coma with sedation. She got the flu and it fucked her up real bad. We bonded long ago over our love of all things woo, and I've been playing her your podcast as is a shared favourite. A mention of you makes her eyebrows wiggle. Positive thoughts and love from the GSG community would be so appreciated. We just want our sister in ghost to come back to us. Please and thank you.
Chloe, we're so sorry. And Sophie, we are, folks, send a kind thought. Sophie W's way, we're certainly doing that ourselves.
What I would say, Flo, is obviously having seen something very similar earlier towards the end of last year with Julie's dad, just keep on being there and keep supporting him. And let's hope Sophie pushes through and finds her way back to us.
Hell yes. Sophie, we are rooting for you, as is everyone listening, and we wish you all the best. Next up is from Miss Tessa Marie 21 on YouTube. This is about episode 205, Mimic Like Me. Tessa says, "Hey guys, great show like always. But that was seriously the best addiction conversation I've ever heard. You guys were spot on regarding everything you said about using and how it affects the addict and their friends and families. I really wish everyone would listen to this episode because it is very informative and you were both very respectful, which doesn't happen very often. I have way more experience than I would like to have with illicit substances, and so the conversation you two had felt very personal. Thank you for being so kind and understanding about addiction. You guys are awesome. It really made me love you guys more, which I didn't think was possible. Hope you have a wonderful 2025. The mimic topic, along with time slips, is one of my favorites in the paranormal world, so I immensely enjoyed this episode. Love always, Tessa." And Tessa, I'm right there with you. I love time slips as well. That's something we want to do later in the year. We're going to try and find some cool, but hopefully believable stories of time slips and see what we can come up with. And Paul, it's always nice to know when we've handled a topic with sensitivity. You know, I think, in all seriousness, like we try to be kind of balance, being serious with levity, but stuff like that. It's nice to know we have managed to thread the needle, and yeah.
Absolutely. Always helps with being a recovering addict. Gives you a bit more insight, I think.
Yeah, no, that's fair, man. And honestly, like the more I meet other recovering addicts, the more I realize, yeah, I think I stopped just short of the cliff. But there's a lot of overlap, we'll say.
Absolutely. But yes, thank you, and I'm glad that struck a chord with you, Tessa.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's to Time Slips 2025. If I could vote for them, I would.
It's quite funny that, because I was listening to Art Bielik talking crap about the Philadelphia experiment again the other day, so that made me chuckle.
Oh, so what's your take on Philadelphia experiment? It seems to me it's just a great story.
Yeah, and it was
okay.
It was proved to be that in the 60s, and then it came back round again in the 90s.
Really? Oh, so it's the Dybbuk box all over again.
Oh yeah, you can see the original. I can't remember where it came from originally. It's sort of late 50s, early 60s, but it's around at that period, and it's well established as being a hoax. And then nothing happened, and then the film came out and started being shown on cable in America, and that's when all these people apparently woke up. More winter soldiering going on. And I suddenly remembered that, oh my God, I was on that ship. And Art Bielik was obviously the prime promoter of that particular line of story, shall we say?
That's a very generous term.
Yes, I don't put any credit and give it anything other than it's, as with some of the things that Art Bell covered in the 90s, like Mel's Hole, that guy trying to fly into Area 51 and getting shot down live on air. The Philadelphia experiment is a great tale for a quiet night by a roaring fire, but that's as far as it goes. It's absolute nonsense.
Oh yeah. That's up there with like some of the classics, like the graveyard and Stull. Do you remember that one from back in the day?
Yeah.
The idea that there's this graveyard in Stull, Kansas that has a set of stairs that if you go down it, you disappear and you never come back. Like that was probably the first creepypasta I ever heard of.
There's tons of them. I mean, you can say a lot of things about the Bermuda Triangle once you dig into them and get past the crap Charles Berlitz promoted.
Yeah, they're great stories, but as I say, we've reached this weird point in the paranormal where a lot of this stuff just gets, I don't know, confused isn't the right word, but it's all being kind of swept up and relitigated and becoming part of this larger, almost like a fantasy people have. Again, and it sucks because the real phenomenon gets swept up into that too, and then it all just becomes part of this muck. I've said this before. I really do think we've taken a huge step back from some of the research people were doing in the 70s.
I think the problem we've got is that we've got a lot of people with more access to putting stuff out there where they either don't verify it, can't be asked to verify it, or knowingly know it's hoaxes, but they want to share it purely for engagement. And that's the biggest issue we've got.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. No, I couldn't agree more. And like I said, every time someone sends me a TikTok, I have to hold my tongue and think, oh, thank you very much.
What? A what?
It's like a very small watch.
Yeah. Well, strangely enough, my mum went to see a psychic the other week. And the psychic said to her, is your son in the media? And she said, well, yeah, I suppose he is. And she went, right. Well, for him to achieve his full success, he must go on TikTok. And she told me this on Christmas Day when I was like 3 bottles in. And I was like, right, okay. Well, I was a bit like, you what? I need to what? Go what? So yeah, and I haven't yet. So I don't know. Should I? I don't know. I mean, like I said, I've registered the show, but that's only to stop somebody nicking it.
Well, I mean, Nikki once saw a psychic, and she's a really cool lady, and I had a reading from her as well, and I think there's a lot of validity to some of the stuff she said. But she told us both, the spirits are telling me that you should both take up swimming. She told us that like separately, individually. Okay, so the spirits run an aquatic center or something? Do they got shares in like a company that sells water wings? Sometimes I think psychics just have like a standard line. If your mom had been like, no, she's like, okay, well, tell them to take up swimming.
Yeah, that is weird. I stumbled across a book about the history of mermaids in my local free library the other day as well. That's a bit weird. Interesting. Maybe you should go swimming.
Are there going to be mermaids there?
I don't know. They might have mirrors with them.
I got to tell you, Paul, in the dude's pool at my gym, mostly a lot of manatees. A lot of bald dudes who look like me.
Hachi041 on YouTube writes, my 10-year-old has gotten into wanting to be a fox. She said, I'm a furry now. So I had to explain, no, what you want to be is a Therian. I don't mind, but I know society does, and that worries me. Then again, when I was growing up, I used to pretend to be a cat. But back then, didn't have a name, I guess. And that's quite funny because one of Julie's cousins, when she was a child, she would go to her house and eventually she asked her mum if she could stop going there because her cousin used to pretend she was a cat and would only drink milk out of a saucer on the floor.
You know, man, I saw this thing and I don't think it's necessarily wrong. It's that everything people refer to as a newfangled social issue is actually something we've been doing for thousands of years. And everything that we talk of as ancient tradition is more or less something we've pulled out of our ass in the last 50 to 100. And I guess this is one of those things. I am just I don't know, this is all new to me. And I'm like, okay, this exists. Therian. I had to look that shit up.
Yes. I know. I got to be careful how you word this. I'm aware. I have relationships with younger people, and
not looking good, Paul. Not looking good.
And some of them lean into Therian. So
okay,
I was. It was a new thing on me because I was like that, but I just went, fair enough. Who gives a shit? Not hurting anybody.
No, 100%. And honestly, the older I get, the more I realize, you know, the same thing. Like this is, who cares? Live your life. It's fine. You're not hurting nobody. Good for you. You know. But when I was younger, like I mentioned on episode 205, that I went to school with a kid who really wanted to be a cat, and it didn't go real well for him. You know, and I never bullied him, but I also didn't think very highly of him. And, you know, I look back on those days and I think, well, I wish I knew then what I knew now, and I wasn't such a close-minded dipshit. But I guess that's the point of getting older, is you get a little bit smarter.
That's usually the idea, one would hope, for all of us. You've not hit that age yet where you start hating young people music. That's when you have officially lost touch with reality, when you turn into your dad and you think you haven't.
I felt a little of that when I flew back to London on Tuesday, because I was on a plane full of university students coming back to semesters at Western and whatever the hell, Fanshawe. And every one of them was wearing sweatpants and going, oh, I'm so sick. What the fuck are you doing on the plane? Did the last 4 years teach you nothing? You're all bitching you missed high school. Why'd you miss high school? I wonder if it's because a bunch of people coughed in each other's fucking open mouths. You think that might have something to do with it? You bastards, put on a mask. Jesus Christ. That happened to the diner before I left. I went over to the Early Bird to have breakfast. And I'm sitting there and this woman walks in to meet her friend. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm so sick. I don't know why everyone who's sick sounds like Marlon Brando, but whatever. My son's Superman. I'm a suitcase. But you get what I'm saying. And I was like, no, don't come then if you're sick. For fuck's sakes. What, again, did you learn nothing?
Maybe it's you. Maybe you're actually kryptonite and they've all escaped Krypton. And that's why they're all sick near you.
I am the lady's kryptonite. Mostly because I make them sick.
You need a mirror, mate.
There's nothing going on down there I care to see. No one should need to see any of that. Last time I went to a colonoscopy, the doctor just shriveled up like the guy from Raiders. God, I don't know if I'll leave that on the show. This is a very bathroom-minded episode, guys. Apologies to any new listeners and any old listeners too, actually.
Yes, it looks like the sickness is in your head.
Well, I don't know if you could see. You know what? Let's not explore this any further. That's what he said. That's what I'm saying now. I think it's better for everyone.
Next up, Jennifer writes, Happy New Year to you brilliant gentlemen. So I know it's been 4 months since I reached out in August of 2024 about our vacation from North Houston to San Antonio, Texas. Well, here's an update on that vacation. Our booking at the Emily Morgan Hotel was a disaster. The pool was closed, which was the deal breaker for us. It looked creepy and eerie anyway, but the booking service I used somehow cancelled our reservation before we got there, and we stayed one night. Then I had to rush to book a room at a more modern establishment down the road by a couple of miles, away from the Alamo. This new room, though, was way better, but our experience at the Emily Morgan Hotel was haunted as fuck, wasn't bad. We stayed one night there. It was just creepy, old and creepy. No real paranormal experiences. I have to give props to the front desk worker that was cool as hell, helping out with our reservations, or should I say, cancelled reservation. They were amazing. Anywho, San Antonio is not like I remembered it from 2001 when I was there last. It felt heavy, old and brown. Maybe it was the construction around the Alamo, I don't know. Maybe it was the 102-degree heat that my husband to walk 2 miles in every August in Texas every day. Good for him. Kill me now. Anyway, we toured around from the new hotel room, saw lots of neat stuff. I even saw my ex-sister-in-law in San Antonio, which was a surprise. She recognized my son. We ran into each other in the Alamo gift shop. It was cool to see her. But the whole town seemed dirty and brown, and that's the only way I can describe it. It wasn't clean, not crisp like Houston. My husband took my son to the mall on the Riverwalk early one morning after their workout. Thank God they let me sleep in these 2 mile. Thank God they let me sleep in with these 2 mile hikes in 102-degree heat that was about to kill me. So they're off on this adventure, and my son just told me yesterday, Mum, I didn't like the trip to the mall in San Antonio. I was like, why, buddy? What happened? He'll be 13 in December. Oh, sorry. He was 13 in December. He said it was empty and eerie, like a backroom feeling. I cringed when he said that. I'm an 80s kid, and I know what a backroom mall feels like. I've got to say mostly the vacation was good, but I've got to remember not to go vacation in the town where my husband has the opportunity to drag me to a 2 or 3 mile a day walk all over that fucking town. My ideal vacation is to sit and drink. I love you guys. Keep up the good work. Jennifer from Houston.
Jennifer, that is grounds for divorce. Hiking alone is grounds for divorce. Hiking in 102-degree temperature, good God. Yeah. All right, Rambo.
Character building, that.
I have plenty of character, as I've established on this episode.
What if I'm built different, bro? You're not.
I am built different. Badly. Very badly. Almost made him spit up his drink.
Don't make me laugh whilst I'm consuming beverages.
I remember a friend of mine a long time ago, my first ever road trip, we were in Vegas, and I didn't have a driver's license at the time, so he's doing all the driving. And he wanted to go to an outlet mall he'd heard about because he loved to shop. So, but he got into his head, well, I'm tired of driving, let's walk. And of course, no one walks in Las Vegas because that's a stupid idea because it's 4,000 degrees. So we did. We walked from I think it was the Stratosphere we were staying at, to this outlet mall, which is a couple miles. And I didn't, because the desert does it to you, I didn't realize how dangerously dehydrated we were until we got to the outlet mall. I power drank 2 bottles of water, and immediately it just shot out of my pores like I was some kind of water feature. Just a hellish experience. And the son of a bitch didn't buy anything, which is probably good because if he had, I would have strangled him with it.
Yes, my tolerance level is 110.
100. So what does that work out to in real numbers?
About 45.
Oh my God. I can handle 40 as long as it's not human, but 40 is like 41, 42 is my max.
The worst, I've told you this before, the worst was when we were in Turkey and it was 49 degrees.
Oh, dude.
That was just hellish.
Yeah, it's like, here's a little preview of what awaits you after the grave, guys. Enjoy. I think, 40. Nick and I, a couple times in LA. And of course, our heart goes out to all our LA listeners with the terrible, terrible fires happening right now.
Awful,
just
awful.
A horror show. All right. Next up is from Christos. Christos says, "Happy holidays, gents. I'm listening to the episode and my ears perked up when I heard the Chesterfield/Hinsdale story. I grew up north of there on the Vermont side of the river. While I know it's a dream, there are some old ruined buildings off a dirt road in that area, which I haven't actually been to. There is a bit of local legend around that. And of course, I'm sorry, just to break in, this is in reference to the story from Greatest Haunts, which was the Dream Hunt, I believe the story was called, originally featured in the episode The Prison of Sleep. I found this really compelling, actually, because it, especially since our listener who sent in the dream, I believe, did not know about these old ruined buildings nearby. But we'll go back to Christos's message here. There is a bit of a local legend around that area, which I've heard from a few old-timers. Apparently, Al Capone had a little getaway tucked into the woods in that area, a brothel and speakeasy. They'd also killed a few people and disposed of them at the pig farms in the surrounding areas. I've heard that there are some remnants of the buildings and a staircase, and that if you walk up the stairs, you'll be pushed when you reach the top step. Again, I've never been there, but I promise next time I'm in the area or on the way to my parents' house, I'll stop by and try to look for it, maybe snap a few pics. I'm planning on sending more of my stories in the coming months. You guys are the best. Thanks, Christos." And yeah, that's really interesting stuff. Even if because of course the listener, who sent in the dream had a very grand vision of what was there. But sometimes I think when we pick up on these things, especially in dreams, I think our mind kind of embellishes them or fills in the gaps.
Can't beat a bit of old-timey gangster mysteries. I wouldn't be surprised if those woods all around there are full of all kinds of bits and bobs.
It's kind of amusing that his hideaway also involves a brothel and a speakeasy. It's like when you're building a little like something in SimCity. You're like, well, I got to have something for the guys to do. Secret hideout. Oh, if we don't have hookers and booze, why are we even bothering hiding out?
Right, exactly. What's the point in railing against prohibition if you can't bid in its
Rail
eye?
against prohibition.
Till that cheeky Elliot Ness catches up with them.
All they had to do is give him more booze. Honestly, I think they missed out here. If they'd just been sending him gift bottles of liquor, then he never would have got them.
It's quite surprising he did end up becoming an alcoholic.
Shocked. Someone in a position of authority projecting his insecurities onto other people? Shocked. Which is not to say the gangsters were good guys. They weren't. But, yeah.
That serial killer case finished him off.
Which one was that?
I can't remember it, but he was involved in a serial killer case. Did he end up becoming I'm not sure he became a DA, but he ended up being involved in a serial killer case and he couldn't solve it. And it really got to him. It got under his skin that he couldn't resolve this case.
I got to tell you, Paul, if I had to investigate something called the Cleveland Torso Murders, it would get to me too.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the most horrific serial killer cases in the 20th century. It is not good. But yeah, we're not talking 3 or 4 bodies here. I think there was at least a dozen.
So according to Wikipedia, and of course, we can always debate how accurate it is, Wikipedia says that Detective Peter Merlo believes there may have been 13 more victims, so as many as 20 plus victims total.
Yeah, it's a very gruesome case. I think I heard about it from the ladies on Morbid a few years ago.
Oh, okay. Fascinating. Well, I'll have to check that out. Obviously, we won't discuss the details of that case here because I'm scrolling through and they are super gross. Yeah,
well, the case name kind of gives you an idea of where we're going there.
That's fair. Yeah.
He's not called the bum stabber, is he?
I mean, I'm sure that happens in Cleveland too.
Well, probably. Why not? It's the 21st century.
get your Cleveland Bumstabber t-shirts. This is a weird butt-focused episode. Jesus. I'm gonna screen cap that video later, and I'm gonna fucking make that into a t-shirt.
Cincinnati Bumstabbers.
Yeah, that's it. We've got the inimitable Thor, and that's gonna be you dressed up like I don't know who, but it's gonna be the Cincinnati Bumstabber. That's
Dressed
what
up
it's
as
gonna be.
Elliot Ness.
There we go. Done deal. How much did I pay that guy on Fiverr again? Well, anyways, we'll figure all that out. And while I am, we're going to take a quick break for some ads. It's because I have to pay for this illustration somehow. All right. Well, I swear, I think that's probably the end of the butt stuff in the episode. I'd like to think, at least.
Yes, I agree.
Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna say after holiday jitters. We'll go with that.
Turkey withdrawal.
There we go. Yeah, we didn't do turkey.
Not enough turkey then. That's the problem.
I do like turkey.
Mm.
All right.
Fun Tom in the Future from YouTube writes to us. This is a bit later than it probably should be, but I have a bit of nasty history to add to the air of distaste around recorders. The word itself is Latin. Recordare means from the heart. Re from cordis, the heart. This is innocent enough, however, it does get dark. Before music was readily available, people who could afford it would purchase songbirds that had been hatched in captivity and isolated from other birds their whole lives. Instead of learning how to sing as a bird would, they would be exposed to a certain tune played on a pipe. They would only learn this tune, and when purchased, would repeat this in someone's house. The old French for birdsong was recorder, because birds were believed to sing from the heart, and that's where the word recording comes from. The instrument itself was key to this whole process, as it was designed to irritates people. The instrument itself was key to this whole process, as it was designed to imitate wild birds and lure them to be trapped. Thank you for putting out this podcast. I've enjoyed it as my treat to help me through my commute home from about 5 years now, and every week feel that rush of joy when I see the new episode alert. In a strange set of circumstances, I've ended up moving to Toronto for school. So, Brennan, if I ever meet you at, say, Little Ghosts, I'd love to buy you a drink. Paul, I offer the same, though the possibility is much slighter.
100%. If I ever see it, Little Ghosts, I haven't been there in a while, but yeah, actually, I guess is as good a time as any to mention. Real shame about Andrew Piper. Just a real goddamn tragedy. Of course, author Andrew Piper, recent guest on this show, celebrated Canadian novelist, passed to most of us very suddenly after the new year. And he had apparently been sick for quite some time. Again, most of us didn't know this, or I didn't know this. A lot of the writing community didn't know this. But yeah, very sad. Andrew was a really good guy, very talented man, very generous with his time. And yeah, I first met him at Little Ghosts in 2023 in May. Steve Stred invited me to the event there. It was a 10th anniversary celebration for Andrew's novel, The Demonologist. And we all, and folks, if you listen to the show for a while, you remember me talking about it. We all went for drinks afterwards and had a really lovely night of it. And yeah, I got to hang out with Andrew and a bunch of other authors like Duncan Ralston, again, Steve Stred, Christian Laforet, some of whom, of course, you've heard on this show. And yeah, it was just a real bummer. So yeah, hug the ones you love, folks. You never have as much time as you think you do.
Very true. Yeah. And thoughts are with his friends and family, because there's been a deep outpouring of grief from a lot of people. And so my thoughts and best wishes are with them all at this tough time for them.
Going back to what you said about the birds, though, boy, that's a real bummer. Fun to in the future. It's good to know as we swing from the outpouring of sympathy and human warmth for Andrew to this horror perpetrated by humans against birds. One of many.
Absolutely. I learned about that many years ago. It's terrifying, really, what people would do just to keep themselves entertained.
You don't say.
I know that might come as a shock, but it's true.
God almighty. Look, I've made an AI. Watch me torture it on TikTok.
See, and now these days people just watch documentaries about weird sex cults.
I feel like it's less I want to say it's less harmful.
It certainly is to songbirds.
That's all that matters. When we get to songbird heaven, they will let you through the gates with a free pass.
Yeah, let's just be thankful they didn't get hold of any lyrebirds. Christ almighty, that would have been interesting.
I'm nodding as though I know what that is.
The lyrebird is probably, ironically, it's probably the bird that is the best at mimicking any sound it hears.
Oh, really?
It's an Australian bird, and it can essentially repeat any noise it hears. So you'll see them in trees just going, because they've heard a car alarm.
Wow.
Or I've heard them do pneumatic drills. They're just mad. They're brilliant. If you go on YouTube, you can find them singing all kinds of strange, weird noises.
Well, I'm certainly not Googling right now how I can find one, have it sent to your house, and positioned outside your window with my voice.
You should.
Paul, you look beautiful when you sleep. You smell great.
Well, thank you very much. You should send one to Danny Robbins.
Yes, I will.
Going outside. Ooh, ooh.
You're a git.
Poor Danny.
I left an upper decker in your bathroom. Again, there's nothing wrong with Danny Robbins. He seems like a really nice guy. I don't know. I'm off my meds or something.
I think there's a lot of sexual tension there.
There we go. Danny, you end up in Toronto. I will buy you a whole ass meal to make up for this.
You could take that one of several ways.
Well, okay, perhaps. Well, given the content of today's show, I recognize it may have been a poor way to phrase that, but a normal meal, Danny, a normal meal. I will buy you a normal meal as by way of apology. Not that you care, or at least I hope you don't, but if you do. Well,
you never know. They are spreading out because one of my mutual friends, the marvellous Fred Anderson, the Swedish Fortean, works in television. And he announced last week that he is now the executive producer on Swedish TV's adaptation of Uncanny. So they're doing a Swedish version, and he's the producer on it. So you never know. Uncanny may be coming to Canada.
And my constant bullying of their host has effectively destroyed any hope I have of being involved.
Well,
Thanks, autism.
Thanks, Justin Trudeau.
Yeah, actually, he's stepping down now, so we have to find someone else to blame. I don't know. Ontario's got a whole lot of bumper stickers that are no longer be valid. But you have to find something else to be mad about. All right, we have 2 left. This next one is from Andrea. Andrea says, "Dear Brennan and Paul, greetings from New Zealand. I discovered your podcast last year and have been making my way through the back catalog. You do an excellent job, frightfully entertaining, but with a great sense of community. You often speak of synchronicities, and I had an interesting experience involving your show, so I felt I needed to share. Feel free to use a story if you like. I grew up in Christchurch on New Zealand's South Island. The city was destroyed by an earthquake in 2011, and many people lost their lives. At the time, I was preparing to leave for Europe on my big overseas experience, having graduated university the year prior. My father had already booked tickets to London to spend a week with me later that year, and we had a lot of sightseeing planned. Sadly, we never got the chance. My father was at work when the quake struck. He ended up trapped under his desk as the building partially collapsed. Miraculously, the first responders got him out with only minor cuts and bruises, and we all thought he was going to be fine. A few days later, however, he suffered a major heart attack and died before the ambulance could reach him. The coroner said it was stress-induced. Would it have happened if not for the quake? Maybe, maybe not. We'll never know. Christmas Down Under is a summer affair, and this year I took extra time off to paint my living room while the weather was nice. My husband and I were trying to pick out a paint color at the local hardware store. Not an easy task, as our aesthetic tastes are very different. Eventually, he showed me a beautiful shade of sea green named Cutty Sark. The Cutty Sark is an English clipper ship built in 1869, which is now a museum in Greenwich. My father was a competitive yachtsman and very interested in maritime history, so we had planned to visit the Cutty Sark as part of his visit to London, which never happened. My husband and I agreed that we'd had to use this color as it seemed a tribute in some way. The following day, I put your podcast on and started painting. I was up to the episode The Goodbye Ghosts from 27 July 2021, where you mentioned the Shackleton expedition. My father used to tell me stories about Shackleton and Antarctic exploration, which has a collection of artifacts from the Shackleton expedition, and took me to see the display several times. It seemed so strange to come across mentions of the Cutty Sark and Shackleton at the same time, given they're not exactly common topics of conversation. I can't help but think that my dad was saying hi. Hopefully he approves of the pink color. Wishing you both a very happy new year, and keep up the good work. Andrea. And Andrea, I love that. And I have to imagine he would very much enjoy the color. I looked it up, and it is a lovely shade of green.
Certainly is, yes. I've been on the Cutty Sark.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, Greenwich Maritime Museum, South East London.
Ah, okay.
Yes, there's a wonderful pub around the corner where, depending on the time of day you're in there, the Thames laps against the windows. I'm not sure, is it called I'm trying to think what the name of the pub was. Is it the Lord Nelson? Richard worked in it a few years ago, and it's probably about 20 years ago now I was in that pub. But yes, there you are, yes.
If I'm not mistaken, is Cutty Sark not also it's kind of whiskey?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I just looked at it. It's a blended Scotch whiskey. I remember people drinking that when I was a kid. Oh. That was something all the old boozers.
I wonder what they'd be drinking now.
That's a good question. I don't know. All the old boozers I used to know are either dead or they stopped drinking.
Probably because they were all on Cutty Sark.
Well, very possible. Cutty Sark, and what else they used to drink? We had this beer called Wildcat. Just terrible shit. Just terrible shit. Like it's like if they had the Spider-Man villain Electro tied up in a basement somewhere, and they were just forcing him to piss into bottles. That's what Wildcat would be.
You mean like it's the liquid embodiment of the Dallas Cowboys?
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, 100%.
I see. Ugh. Blech.
Yep. Ugh is right. There was Wildcat. There was TNT. All kind of the same. Like I think like 6%, and just rotten to the core. And again, a lot of folks I know used to drink that stuff.
Yes, we had TNT over here, but it was a cider in a bottle that was shaped like a dynamite stick. This was one of those. We had a big flurry at the end of the 80s of trying to make bottled cider as strong as possible, so teenagers would pass out in parks. And I think
it's an excellent pacifying strategy.
Yeah. We had a lot of them. It was like case cider, which strangely smelt of bananas, Diamond White, which was the classic, Diamond Blush, which is essentially Diamond White but with blackcurrant in it, and TNT. And most of them, apart from Diamond Blush, were around 7.5%, 8% a bottle, which you think's fine till you've had 3 and you're 15.
Honestly, I think 3 now might be an issue for me. We used to have a beer out of a brewery in Victoria called Herminator. It was a dark lager. And it was 9%. And I tell you, you drink a 6-pack of those and your night is over.
Yeah, we used to have a beer here called Roger and Out that was so strong you could only buy it in thirds. And if you drank 3 of them, you got a certificate. And I used to know somebody who was a gobshite. And and they weren't a big drinker. And they went, oh, we'll go to the beer festival and have some. And they had 4, and then they came back, passed out in the settee in the pub that we were working in, and pissed themselves. And
Jesus
It was only 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Good day all round for them.
No, yep.
Our last correspondence for this week's show is from Joel, who says, hi guys, I hope that you are well and that your Christmas holiday has been most agreeable. Following Brennan's outpouring of love and respect for Danny Robbins, I suddenly had the urge to create a list of traditional nursery rhyme titles, but in tribute to episodes past and present. Strange I know, but this first title will explain how this came about. They are as follows. Winds the Robins Up. Heads, shoulders, knees and toes. A cannibal nursery rhyme. Pussycat, stop scratching my door, which is quite ironic, actually, as we've just had that incident. We Jet Set Willy Winkle. We Jet Set Willy Winky. The Mothin Man. Hot cross buns in the sauna. I may add more if I can think of any. Best wishes, Joel. P.S. I'm not sure that you ever posted the complete lyrics for Bob Ross' Sex Machine.
Joel, you're absolutely right. I forgot to do that, so I will put them in the show notes for this episode. Those are brilliant. My hat is off to you, sir. And this is the last episode. I'm gonna do the whole Robbins bit thing because again, he's a really great guy. I don't want to keep it going because I don't want people getting the wrong idea. It's been fun, and but every good gag has to come to an end because otherwise it's going to get weird. I don't know him personally. If I did, it would be different. But I think I've reached the limit of how much I can conceivably tease someone I've never met, and without having it seem weird. Without having him genuinely worried, I'm going to send that bird over to his house.
You're only saying that now because I've told you that Uncanny's moving around the world, haven't you?
Oh, no, that ship has sailed.
This week, our special experts are Brennan Storr and Zach Baggins.
I like the idea that I'm invited on as a special expert and Danny just kicks the shit out of me. All right, well, Joel, again, thank you very much, man. Always appreciate your lyrical contributions. And I will put the full lyrics to Bob Ross' Sex Machine in this episode show notes because it's that's a work of art that deserves to be shared.
Certainly is.
Huge thanks to everyone who wrote in this episode and who writes in generally. Again, we try to get as many of your messages into here as we can. And if you don't hear your message on a show, rest assured we will do our best to fit it in one in the future. And of course, keep commenting on YouTube, Spotify, everywhere you can. We love seeing those, love reading those, and love working them into our Talk Spooky episodes wherever possible. And if you have a ghost story, if you have a strange experience you'd like to hear us read out on a listener episode, send that to us too. ghoststoryguys@gmail.com is the best place to do it. Again, that's ghoststoryguys@gmail.com. Paul, my friend, where can everyone find you online?
You can find Mysteries and Monsters across most social media sites and also podcast aggregators.
Fabulous. I'm Largely the Truth on Threads, Instagram, Blue Sky, and Letterboxd. And you can find my horror fiction show, Fear Daily, everywhere fine podcasts live. And of course, it wouldn't be an episode of Talk Spooky without a song, although I don't know how thrilled the artist will be to have it attached to this particular episode, but here we go anyways. That artist is Victoria's own David Bosma with the single Running Beside Myself. Again, that's David Bosma with the single Running Beside Myself. If you like what you hear, you can find more from David at bosma.bandcamp.com. That's bosma.bandcamp.com. You'll also find a link in the show notes as well. Thanks as always for listening, guys. We can't tell you how much we appreciate it. We love doing these shows. It's a lot of fun. It's a break from the regular format, and we get to, well, sometimes it turns into what you heard tonight. But we are deeply, deeply appreciative of all of you. And don't forget, if you want ad-free episodes and early release, click the link in the show notes or head to patreon.com/ghoststoryguys. We'll be back next week with episode 206. And until then, we will leave you with David Bosma and Running Beside Myself. Hey, Sophie. Sophie. Wake up.